The first thing you should do is familiarize yourself with all of the key phrases of the important information that you want to pull out of a difficult text. Academia is full of really difficult, dense text. Look how tiny these words are. It's so stupid. But by following all of the stuff in this video, I really feel like you can get the most out of text, particularly academic text like this. There are loads of tricks, and I'm going to list them from my least favorite to my favorite. So make sure you stay around because they're going to get better and better as we go through this video. I absolutely love that technique. So the first one really is to get familiar with the format of the text. Now, it's going to be different from field to field, but essentially I am looking, when I'm skimming through this text, for things that really are going to sort of highlight the most important information. At the beginning of an abstract, there's loads of information that, you know, unless you're new to a field, really is just sort of like background information. And so I like to actually just skim this bit and look for the bits that I want. When I'm reading a paper, I know what I want from it, whether I want to gather new information about methods, if I want to gather new information about techniques, if I want to gather new information about the field in general, I want to know what I'm looking for. So I'll go through and I'll look for certain key elements. The main ones I'm looking for, first of all, is what this paper actually tells me. So about halfway down all of these, it's like introduction, okay, this is what I really want. And essentially we're looking for those. So as I'm scanning through here, it's not until, let's have a look, in this present study, it's all the way down here. There's about sort of like 5 or 6 lines before we get to that part. The second thing I'm looking for is methods. What do they actually do? So in your field, you'll probably be interested in the different sort of techniques. And so if I'm interested in sort of like looking at the different things that are available to me, I'll look for those phrases. Another phrase at the end. So there's 3 bits. In this present study, we did this. This is what we actually did, and ultimately what the main conclusions are and the future work. And that's normally at the bottom of an abstract as well. So as we go through, therefore, this material could be used for long-term cellular. There we are. So it's this last sentence that I'm actually interested in. So you see that it's about a third of the way through, half of the way through, and the last sentence. So that is how I scan text really, really quickly. And that's just the abstract. It's about filtering out what is actually important and what is not important at all. And you'll be sort of like amazed at the amount of words in an academic paper or other sort of like really difficult texts that really just don't bring anything to the table. Next is probably one that is so basic and simple, but it really helps, and it's almost a little bit embarrassing including it in this video, so let's check it out. Reading faster really means controlling what your eyes do. And the thing is our eyes aren't necessarily designed to kind of like follow text, right? They are meant for following things in the distance on the horizon, like just finding spots. And the thing is that words on a page aren't particularly interesting, at least to my eyes. And I find myself jumping all over the place. So when I'm scanning, I also use my finger to read really quickly. And I remember reading a text somewhere that was like, it was on Reddit or somewhere, and it was like, never trust a man that reads with his finger. Well, you're going to become that person, I'm afraid. So here we are. We're just going to use our finger and we're going to scan over the top, and we're following sentence by sentence until I find something that I actually want to read. So actually just by following with your finger, with a pen, it really does help sort of like focus your eyes on the things you're reading, because I find myself otherwise jumping from word to word, from sentence to sentence, and I actually end up rereading, which causes me a load of sort of like wasted time. So here, using a pen, using my finger, I'm going through and I'm just scanning. And I'm using that to guide my gaze. And it just means that I'm staying on track. That is so silly, so stupid, but I really find it helps when reading large texts that are printed out really small, just like academic documents. Also, if you've got a textbook that has got particularly small writing as well, like this stupid beast, not a riveting read at all, a bit rubbish, I'll be honest. That is mental. You can barely read it even when you're up close. So using your finger or a pen or something to guide your eyes through the words and scanning quickly really does help, I promise you. All right then, that was silly, but the next one probably is the most important one that I think exists, but not my favorite. Not all words or paragraphs are created equally, and by that I mean some of them have got higher cognitive loads than other parts of the page. So for example, when I'm skimming, sometimes I will need to take a break. If I find myself like not really understanding, let's say about 60% of what I'm scanning, I do have to stop. So you read faster by slowing down at certain points, and that's because I don't need to reread certain bits, and it can be a little bit confusing, especially in the early stage of a new field where you don't have that kind of background knowledge. So you will stop more often, and that will feel very frustrating. But ultimately, what you've got to do is scan until you've kind of like reached that mindful feeling, and you just have to stop and you just have to go, okay, what did I just read? What did I understand from it before carrying on? Another thing I really like to do if I really feel like I've got like a massive cognitive load is I have just like a little pen and paper nearby, and I literally just write down a sentence of what I've just read. And what that does is just refocus me, get me away from reading, and just kind of really help me sort of absorb that information a little bit more and give my brain a chance to work out what it's actually read. So it's kind of like a paradox, I think that's what it's called anyway, where to speed up, sometimes you got to slow down. And as you're reading, you'll get a feeling where you're like, okay, I need to slow down a little bit now. And that's when you do stop, you write down a couple of sentences of the things you want to remember. You can even write it directly onto the paper as well. And yeah, that's how you kind of like speed up, by slowing down sometimes and writing, because then you don't need to revisit it. And it actually stays in my mind much longer than if I was just to scan quickly. So there we are. That's how you read a difficult text. Take little breaks when you reach that cognitive overload, and take a little note for yourself as well. Okay, so this is my absolute favorite way of reading difficult text really quickly. First of all, we need to sort of like stop our eyes from moving too far across the page. There's a couple ways we can do that. If I head over to a PDF, you can see that a PDF really is not very useful, because I can kind of try to squeeze it down, and it kind of doesn't help me at all. It just gets smaller. So if you're reading something online, what I like to do is get the just normal web page like this, squeeze it down, and then you can see that everything becomes much skinnier. And when it's skinnier, it means that you can actually sort of like reduce your eye movements. And what I'm doing is I'm looking from here to here, and just for each line I'm moving across, and I'm not really worried about scanning. I've got 2 eye points for each sentence, and so I want about sort of like 5 to 10 words in a line, and I can change, you know, the size by doing this, and then I'm just going from here to here. So evaluate behavior, modification of parents to visit, improving sleep performance, and that's essentially what I'm doing. Picking 2 points, point, and that's how I read quickly. Once again, if I reach that cognitive overload, boom, I stop. And my favorite way of reducing eye movement has been Swift Read. Now, Swift Read is something that allows you, it's like a Chrome extension, and I think it's really good. So I installed it. Let's take a look at sort of like something like this, right? So I'm on illicit.org, which is a fantastic way to get research papers. So I've got a paper like this, and reading all of this on a PDF is very, very sort of like boring, and also it's just really hard because I'm scanning across my entire width, and my eyes are moving a lot, and it's really dense, and it's really hard to stop myself from kind of like jumping all over the page. So I can just copy this into the Swift Read pasted text. So I go to my extension, and I just say I want to go into the paste into Swift Read, and so this is what we end up with. I copy it in, and then I end up with this pop-up box, which I absolutely love. And I change the words per minute. So if I'm scanning, I'll choose somewhere about 500 to 600. If I want a little bit sort of slower, maybe I'll go 450. Let's have a look what that looks like. So all I do is stare at that orange letter, and I let myself just read, and it's allowing me to keep my eyes still whilst also absorbing the information. A great way to read text faster. So I'm just going to stop this. So I really like this approach, and it is completely free to use, this kind of copy and paste bit in Swift Read. And one thing I like about it is that if you've got like a massive load of texts, a load of papers, a load of abstracts you need to read, like if you're going to a conference, for example, and they print out all the abstracts, you can just copy them and paste to Swift Read, and it takes something that would normally take me, you know, like like 1 or 2 minutes, maybe more to read and reread because I was not paying attention. It allows me to completely focus on that abstract just for like 30 seconds to a minute, and I've absorbed it. So it really does help. So Swift Read has been a really useful tool for me in the past, and I probably don't use it enough considering how useful I really find it to be. So yeah, those are all of my little tricks. So there we have it. That is how I absorb difficult text. Now that has been refined over many years, and it is a little bit of practice as well. So don't be hard on yourself if you're finding it hard to concentrate on difficult academic text. It will come with time. Looking for those key words takes the time to build up that kind of vocab in your mind to be like, this is now clearly the most important bit. So yeah, just give yourself a little bit of freedom, and also just go check out all those tools and try those tricks. Let me know in the comments what you think. And there are more ways you can actually get involved with me. The first way is to sign up to my newsletter. You get 5 emails over about 2 weeks, everything from the tools I use, the podcasts I've been on, how to write the perfect abstract, the perfect daily schedule. It's completely free, available for only your email address, so no spam ever to you. And the second thing I think you should check out is academiainsider.com. That's my project where I've got my new ebooks, the Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit, as well as the PhD Survival Guide. There's a blog in there as well. There's the forum. It's all going off, and that website and this YouTube channel is all about making sure PhDs in academia works for you. So have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.